here I go again with the lists. What's up guys, DPX here, and today I'm counting down the top 20 Sega Genesis games. This is 20 through 11. So yeah, sit back and enjoy. Now here are the rules. No games that were also on the Super Nintendo are allowed on the list, unless they were ported from the Genesis to the Super Nintendo, or if the two versions differ, like a lot. And also one game per franchise, and no remakes of games. Okay, the Genesis was kind of early of a system to have remakes, but like Mega Man The Wily Wars exists. That's like a compilation remake. Yeah, nothing like that. Also no games that were originally on the Sega Master System. So games like Altered Beast are out. But at least Altered Beast is good. I'm saying that like there are not many good games, but also, let's begin. Though Sonic might have been Sega's answer to Mario, Kid Chameleon was probably the Mario of the Sega Genesis, at least gameplay-wise. Maybe not gameplay-wise, but definitely like level design-wise. Kid Chameleon is a game that it's one of my personal favorite Sega Genesis games, and it's only at number 20. See how hard this list was? Yeah. Kid Chameleon, you play as, I guess this kid's name is Kid Chameleon, and you go around beating up enemies, and like, it's a fun game. And not to mention, there are so many power-ups, like, oh my god. To be honest, there are actually 9 power-ups, like 9 helmets you can get, and that was less than I thought. But let's be real here, you can turn into a knight, a samurai, a reaper or whatever. Totally tubular. Kid Chameleon is a great game. You see how hard this list was? Only making it number 20. That's samurai. X-Men 2, The Clone Wars is at number 19. Okay, first of all, I'm sorry about the gameplay, because I suck at this game. I mean, seriously, I suck so bad. And, my skill at this game aside, it's really good. That's why it's on the list. X-Men 2, The Clone Wars is, of course, another X-Men installment. We get to pick between 6 X-Men: Wolverine, Beast, Cyclops, Gambit, Nightcrawler, and Psylocke. And this game is one of the best games on the Genesis, and it was also hard to put it only at number 19. Now, if you compare the Genesis and the Super Nintendo with like how much, like what better RPGs they have, there's no question Super Nintendo has way more RPGs and much better ones. But gotta give the nod to Phantasy Star, the end of the millennium. Or just Phantasy Star 4, like how everyone else in the frickin' world says it. You know what? I say it like that too. But it doesn't matter how I say the name of the goddamn game. The game's good. Like, I'm not really doing much in the gameplay, but the game is good. I said it was one of the best RPGs of all time, and really, that list is so outdated. I made that in like my first year of YouTube. I gotta do a new list. Anyways, Phantasy Star 4 is the definitive title in the Phantasy Star franchise. Sure, the online games are good, and what was it, Phantasy Star 2 on the Sega Master System that everyone loves is pretty good too. But this is the shit. And it's only at number 18. Who's to say this is the only JRPG on the list? Or just the only RPG on the list? Foreshadowing, you say? I'm not gonna answer that. Oh, Contra, do you have a single game in your franchise that isn't difficult? I don't think so. Definitely one of the hardest games in the Contra franchise is probably Contra Hard Corps. Now, the reason why it's not higher is because it's so hard that it's kind of hard to play. Hence the word Hard Corps in the title. Well, that's 2 words, but arguably the hardest game on the Sega Genesis, yeah, that much. See, look, I died. I got game over. You get hit once, you're dead. Get hit like 3-4 times, game over. But let's not talk about that. In this game you get to play as a wolf. That's freaking awesome. Being one of the best games in the Contra franchise, Contra Hard Corps is a nice game on the Sega Genesis, and you get to blast everything. Yeah. Konami was one of the kings of the Super Nintendo, but they made a few good games on the... Look, I died again. They did make a few good games on the Genesis. This was one of them. But is it the only one? You guys should have expected this to be on the list. Toe Jam and Earl. Now, there are actually 2 Toe Jam and Earl games. Toe Jam and Earl and Toe Jam and Earl on Funkatron Island or something. But I went with Toe Jam and Earl, like the original, because it's a classic, and though it may not seem... It might seem boring in the gameplay I'm showing, everyone could agree that this game is just one of the greatest games on the Genesis. Toe Jam and Earl were considered 2 of Sega's mascots back in the day. Though they are sort of forgotten mascots and what's going on with the gameplay. And I died. That wasn't fair. But anyways, Toe Jam and Earl is one game that, if you have a Genesis, you most likely have. And you should play. Let's just hope for the best for Back in the Groove, though. Please be good. Actually, though, look at this. Toe Jam and Earl Back in the Groove is an actual thing. I mean, really. No specific release date. No pre-order. This item is not available yet. I mean, I don't even know if this is ever even going to come out. It's probably going to get canceled. I won't be surprised. But I'll be disappointed. Beyond Oasis. This is like an action adventure fantasy game that is, well, really good, which is why it's on the list. Beyond Oasis is, this looks great. Like, even the cutscenes, well, it didn't really have cutscenes, but like, you know what I mean, like the opening scene. This is really well polished, and definitely there's a play. It's sort of like an overhead view. No, I was gonna say it's sort of an overhead beat 'em up, but kind of. But I mean, it feels a little bit like Zelda. You should play this. It's really good. It's not like a Zelda clone, okay? Alright. The game is good. Shining Force 2 is debatably better than Phantasy Star 4. And Phantasy Star 4 is debatably better than Shining Force 2. Look, Shining Force 2 stands out to me more. What I mean by that is, it looks nice and everything. I mean, sure, Phantasy Star 4 is great, but Shining Force 2 is... I'm sorry guys, but Shining Force 2 is better. I said that. Shining Force 2 is... Again, Sega was not really known for making many RPGs, but this may have been one of the best RPGs ever. Again, I put this on as one of the best RPGs of all time on my top 10 RPGs list, all the way back. But that list is so outdated. Yeah. Shining Force 2. Konami struck again on the Genesis. Rocket Knight Adventures, though, may not be the most fair game on the Genesis, especially with a bunch of enemies coming at you at once. It's definitely one of the best. And, seriously, Sparkster should have became a household name in the 90s. Wonder what held him back from there. Oh yeah. Anyways, you play a Sparkster who is a possum knight. It's got a good ring to it. And you just blow shit up. Like, just like Contra Hard Corps, how you blow everything up, and in X-Men 2, the Clone Wars, how you blow everything up. The Genesis kind of had a lot of blowing stuff up. This is one game that... it's good, okay? Ninjas. Sega needed one. Like, there was Ryu Hayabusa from Ninja Gaiden, so It was Joe Musashi from Shinobi. And the Shinobi game I chose was Shinobi 3. Return of the Ninja Master. One of my personal favorite games on the Genesis. Shinobi 3 is where you play as Ninja Joe trying to rescue kids from being captured. That's cool. At least I believe that's the... there are so many... There's a lot of variety in this game, and it looks pretty good. I mean, seriously. I don't really know what to say, it's just good. But ninjas, eh? Thought I had a game with one somewhere. Oh yeah! Yeah. I couldn't be more obvious after I said it. Strider is definitely... Yeah, as you can see, I'm just keep slashing my blade here. And... Strider is... Oh yeah, pretend I didn't die there. Because that was... That never happened. Okay, Strider is very difficult. But still... it's a... kind of... a franchise Capcom doesn't really do much with, though it did have a pretty good remake a few years ago. Suggest you go play that. But Strider is definitely one of the best games on the Genesis. Like, you should have expected this game here, but it barely missed the top 10. But and I didn't just die there, okay? And Strider, you play as Strider Hiryu. Or, like, in Japan, this game is also called that with an extra U in Hiryu. Because, I don't know, Japan. And Strider is, you play as the Ninja Strider and fighting these robots, like robot monkeys, this wrestler dude that you see. And also, a bunch of fire drops, and then I die. And I get a game over. Strider's a good game, okay? I'm making it sound like it's bad, but it's a good game. The 11th best game on the Genesis. I got a game over, but barely misses the top 10. Number 10, Golden Axe. Golden Axe is one of many beat-em-ups on the Genesis. The Genesis is more of a beat-em-up system. Golden Axe, you're allowed to play as this elf dude I'm playing as well as two different, like, people with an axe. And look at that stupid gnome guy that I'm beating up. Isn't that just so fun? Also, the game plays very smooth. I like how it plays. Look, I'm riding a beast. Oh, Beast Rider. Yeah, Golden Axe hasn't really had a good run after the trilogy ended. Yes, there's a second and third one, which were also pretty good, but the first is still the best. And we don't talk about Beast Rider. Okay, I said no games shared between the Genesis and the Super Nintendo are allowed on the list, but this is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Hyperstone Heist. The Super Nintendo had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time. So this is very similar to Turtles in Time. It's basically just a re-release of Turtles in Time on the Genesis, but since it's considered its own game, I'm counting it, and it's the 9th best Genesis game. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Hyperstone Heist is... oh, it's pretty much the same thing as Turtles in Time, and Turtles in Time is Turtles in Time. It's a great game. Though it may not be the easiest game on the Genesis, definitely one worth playing. And yeah, the Hyperstone Heist. The Hyperstone Heist. Yep. Rystar. Rystar. Or is it Ristar? Or Restar? Huh. Well, I think it's pronounced Rystar, but you can pronounce it however you want. This game was actually originally gonna be Sonic. And Sonic was originally gonna be a little thing called Field the Rabbit, where he could grab stuff with his ears, and that was incorporated into this game. So, and therefore this game was also made by Sonic Team. So, it does, I'm not gonna say it feels a lot like Sonic, but you'll see the resemblance when you play it. That's not a bad thing. It's actually maybe a good thing. Rystar is a great game on the Sega Genesis, and definitely deserves the number 8 spot on this list. Yeah. Hey, number 7, Vector Man. Vector Man being one of Sega's more forgotten franchises. Not saying forgotten like many people don't remember it. I'm saying for Sega forgot it. Vector Man, you play as this robot made out of blue and green balls, named, you guessed it, Vector Man, and the game is pretty tough. I didn't die there, though. Just pretend I didn't die. The game is pretty hard. Probably one of the hardest games on the Genesis. Yeah, the Genesis had a lot of hard games. A lot of its good games were pretty tough. This was one of them. This game is great though, and definitely deserves some sort of re-release, remake, remaster, even port, some sort of comeback in the future. I totally didn't just die again. Okay. I always pull out a hidden gem on... I pulled out a hidden gem on my top 20 best SNES and N64 games. And here I go again with the Genesis. Though this one isn't a hidden gem as like the others, like most of the games I've covered. But this is Comic Zone. It came out after the Genesis did. Wait. No, of course it came out after the Genesis did. but it also came out after the Sega Saturn did. And the Genesis was losing support. So this came out when the battle between Super Nintendo and Genesis was over. However, this is a great game. You play as Sketch Turner, who got trapped inside his own comic book world. He fucked up. And you're trying to get out. You are fighting drawn enemies, which is pretty cool. This is a very unique game, and definitely should have received more attention when it came out. Here's another kind of hidden gem, Castlevania Bloodlines. Yet another game by Konami. Castlevania Bloodlines is actually one of the best Castlevania games, and also one of the goriest games on the Genesis. I mean, seriously, you could either play as John Morris or Eric Lacard. I'd play as Eric Lacard because he has the staff. And by the way, Eric Lacard is a male. He doesn't look like one. Anyways, Castlevania Bloodlines is one of the best Castlevania games out there, yeah. And I'd even say it's like amongst the top 5 best Castlevania games. And it's even called Castlevania the New Generation in Europe. But unfortunately, they got censored. They got the violence censored. But the Bloodlines is a nice entry to the Castlevania franchise and a nice game in the Genesis library. At number 4 is Disney's Aladdin. Okay, now, would you expect a licensed game such as Aladdin? I mean, like, no, let me rephrase that. Would you expect a licensed game to place this high on this list? Well, this list. But normally, no. But Aladdin is one of the best movie-based games of all time. Aladdin is... well, Aladdin has a sword in this game, but adding sword-based combat makes it a little easier to play the game. I say a little easier because the game's pretty hard, which is probably why it hasn't ranked higher. But you see, I'm keep messing up there. But Disney's Aladdin actually became the 3rd best-selling game on the Sega Genesis. Yeah. Boy. Number 3. Aladdin is the 3rd best-selling game on the Genesis, but it's only at number 4. Yeah. Yeah, and also again, I did say it's hard, but don't expect it to, I said it's hard, but, yeah. Number 3 is Gunstar Heroes. Gunstar Heroes is great. And it's a nice run and gun game on the Sega Genesis. Yep, another game where you blow stuff up. This would be the Genesis equivalent to Contra. Well, I guess not, because there was a Contra game known as Contra Hard Corps on the Sega Genesis. But okay, the SNES equivalent to this would probably be like Super Star Wars. There. In this game, you play as Red, I think his name is. Just blowing stuff up. It's pretty much the whole point of the game. You just beat up these enemies. It's pretty difficult, since they're all jumping at you at they're all like jumping on you at once, but it's fun. Many people put this very high, like you can go to any list telling you the best games on the Genesis, and this game would be placed very high. Mine included. One of my personal favorite Genesis games, and I believe it's one of the best-selling Genesis games ever. But not the second one or the first one. But it's probably up there. But there's 2 more games. What could they be? Since this is my list, longtime viewers, you guys should have known this one was coming. Streets of Rage 2 is one of the, if not debatably, the best game in the beat-em-up genre. It is great. I love it. It's one of my favorite games out there. Streets of Rage 2, I mean, like, what haven't I said about it yet? Well, Streets of Rage 2, you can, is like, it's almost, in my opinion, it's almost too good for words. Now I'm playing like, I'm playing a PC port that I used from my top 10 favorite games of all time, which is why it looks a little different than the rest. The rest of the games, the gameplay games, things I've used, but you know, it's good. The game is good. I love Streets of Rage 2. You can play as 4 different characters. Alright, Axel, Blaze, Skate, or Max, I think his name is. I use Skate, because he's like the best character in the game. Yeah. Though it's a top 20, before I get to number 1, here are some honorable mentions. Okay, number 1 was pretty tough. I had to pick between Sonic 2 or Sonic 3 and Knuckles. In the end, however, even with my boy Knuckles, I had to go with Sonic 2. Sonic 2 was debatably the best Sonic game, and though I don't quite agree with that, this is also debatably the best Genesis game, and I do agree with that. Sonic 2 introduced Tails, one of the most popular side kicks in any video game ever. Tails helps you out quite a lot, and that's one thing that makes this game good. Another thing is that, well, it's Sonic 2. Sonic was all over the place back then. He was Sonic. You guys all knew that a Sonic game was going to make the list. And to be honest, Sonic 2 wasn't that hard. I'm just kidding, it was pretty tough between Sonic 2 or 3 and Knuckles. And though I feel like I just abandoned my boy Knuckles. But yeah, Sonic 2 and Knuckles. Whoa. So, I was actually originally going to do Sonic 2 and Knuckles, but that's actually a ROM hack that was actually on a cartridge, and yeah, long story. But Sonic 2 remains as it is. Sonic 2 is a great game, and it was the second best-selling game on the Genesis. And besides that, was the first Sonic game, and it was bundled with the system. Thanks for watching. Did I miss any games that... Did I miss any Sega Genesis games that you really like? Let me know in the comments. Be sure to like this video, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. I gotta go take a nap now.